Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about issue number 8 of X-Force, written by Jeffrey Thorne, but before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a favor. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow. So with that said, this issue picks up in Dallas, Texas, with Sage doing everything she can to get back into the fight. So as she attempts to hack her way back in, she stated, "Forge's damned ghost fields make the jet invisible to SAT scans, and La Diabla blocked me out of the comm system. But I'll find them and I will get back in. And once I'm back in, it then will be Sage's turn." Now following that look into what Sage is doing, we then transition back to Forge and his team as they stand face to face with Colossus. And one of the things that Betsy immediately points out is how she couldn't read Colossus's thoughts, which led Rachel to mentally reply by saying, "Nothing on psi scans, it's like he's empty inside." So with that being stated, they couldn't help but to ask their metallic friend, what exactly was he doing? To which a nonchalant Colossus answered by saying, "Are you blind, woman? Are you stupid? I'm killing you and you will fall and smash to the ground as little bloody dots." So as Colossus continued to rip cables out of their jet, our heroes thought that their old friend could be under mind control, but if he was, then it would be a version of mind control they had never seen. So with the clock ticking, Forge yells out for Tank to stop as he rushes towards Colossus. And on the next page, we see Tank not just tackling Colossus, but tackling him so hard that they rip through the craft into open air. With this new turn of events, all hell breaks loose as Forge tells his friends to hang on tight as he attempts to stabilize the systems. But right as Forge attempts to do that, La Diabla's voice echoes out and said, No, this is no time for fast saves, my love, your lesson is only beginning." Now as the debris of the crash starts to fall, Betsy panics about how she lost Forge, as Colossus points out how he is disappointed with how weak he sees Tank's attacks. So as the two men crash into the ground, we then jump over to Forge free-falling as La Diabla's voice states, "Pay attention, you are being taught. Do you know Nietzsche? A wise man who saw the world clearly. For he wrote something once that put you in my thoughts. And that was when he wrote, 'Be ready to burn yourself in your own flames. For how can you rise anew if you have not first become ashes?'" So as he free fell, Forge's power activated, and somehow, we started to see metal starting to form around our hero. So as that was going down, we then transitioned to the ground with Tank and Colossus continuing their battle. And on a side note, I like how Colossus is just talking shit, saying, "Are you a mute or something? Entertain me." And funny enough, Colossus got what he wanted as Tank replied with, "In my experience, it's the ones who talk the most who say the least." So to increase his odds, Tank pulled out two weapons and started to go in on Colossus. And as Tank continued to throw hands, he stated, "I don't know who you are or why you seek our deaths, but you are no Pyotr Rasputin." So as Colossus lay on the ground, he replied with, "Well, maybe there is some fire in you, and it really would be my thrill to stamp it out, but sadly, she has other plans." And with that statement, La Diabla's symbol appeared and Colossus vanished as we get a narration from La Diabla saying, "You puzzle me, Forge, I admit it, is it your mutation that blinds you? You don't really think about your creations, do you? You are like a savant." Following all that, we finally see Rachel and Betsy land on the ground and start to talk to Tank as we continue to hear La Diabla's voice saying, "You see flaws, you fabricate corrections to your machines. You are a very practical mechanic, but what happens when you build the wrong machine, and what happens when it breaks?" So as La Diabla continued to speak, we jumped over to the team looking for Forge, but to their dismay, they noticed that Forge still had his psi blockers up that prevented them from finding him. So with that coming to a dead end, Betsy took her sword and drew a circle around them, and stated, "Right, our foe uses alchemy, that has magic in it. So this protection ward should give us a measure of safety while we suss out what's next." But right when she said that, La Diabla answered her question by saying, "What's next is that you all die. It's not personal, I actually quite loved your spreads in Vogue and Elle once upon a time. But you inhibit Forge. You're an anchor on him. That chain must be cut." So with that out there, La Diabla cast a spell and summoned 4 elemental base creatures. And before they knew it, the 4 elemental base creatures closed in on them and went on the attack, and one of the things the women noticed was that these things didn't have consciences, which meant they weren't alive. So as they battled on, Betsy shouted if Rachel needed a quick psionic boost. To which Rachel states, "Nope, I got it," and let loose a massive blast. And once she landed, Rachel continued to say, "Wow, that actually felt good. These psi regulators Forge installed are perfect." So with the elemental creatures defeated, they rapidly turned their attention back to La Diabla and prepared for their follow-up attack. But before they could react, La Diabla activated her alchemy, and on the next page, she summoned not just one set, but many sets of elemental monsters. And like a tidal wave of water, the creatures washed over them and the fight was on. Now at first, they were holding their own, but eventually, they started to reach their limits. Now with victory on the horizon, Colossus points out to La Diabla that she should have let him finish off Tank. But she answered him by saying, that wasn't the plan. But strangely enough, this Colossus continues to say, aren't you always telling me not to play with my food? To which La Diabla answered with, it's not a meal, it's an equation. It must be balanced before, but before La Diabla could fully answer, she was interrupted by Forge arriving on the scene with his newest armor, shouting for X-Force to look alive. And with his newest suit, Forge was able to rescue Betsy right when she needed it the most and started to rally his team as La Diabla and Colossus just looked on. So after the battle played out in favor of X-Force, we see the team regroup on the next page. Just so La Diabla to say, did you think your lessons were finished, my love? You haven't met our Dr. Avery yet. Dr. Avery is a specialist in physics and radiation like Bruce Banner. And then she went on to say, I admit, I know nothing of how the Hulk works, for we saw the news reports, of course. And we heard the stories. He seems to us so random, so chaotic. But see, Dr. Avery isn't chaotic. In fact, he is very orderly except when he is not. Because with one word all this orderly behavior is gone. And once she said Rampage, Dr. Avery instantly started to shift into a gigantic beast. And on the next page, we see Dr. Avery in all his chaotic fury as X-Force looked on, ready to fight. And just like before, the fight was back on, as the X-Force dived back into battle. And as they fought, La Diabla stated, every equation is a sculpture, a story. The pieces, the characters, simply variables, constants all moving to add or subtract, multiply or divide until the equation is complete. And on the last page, we see Sage saying, she found them. So as she started to set off to help her friends in battle, on the last panel we get a psychic message sent to her saying, I need your help, Sage. And base off the next issue and incoming X event, Manhunt. I could only assume that message came from good old Charles. And with that said, this issue of X-Force comes to an end. Now down in the comment section below, let me know your thoughts about this issue and what predictions you could have moving forward. So with that established, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.